past few weeks, I have had to talk a lot about Netflix's Queen Cleopatra because the media has defended it tooth and nail. The lead actress said racism is to blame for its awful user scores on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. And now things are heating up again because we know the watch time it drew in its first week after release, and these numbers are looking awful. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube membership. So starting with this next TV article, worst show ever, Queen Cleopatra debuts to a miserable 20.2 million streaming hours and a 2% Rotten Tomatoes audience score. Now, I have talked about this series a lot on the channel, because there just has continued to be things to discuss, right? But the user scores had dropped all the way to a 1% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I know it's at a 2% now, and it's not much of a difference because it's that low. But at the same time, leading up to the release, I actually thought the reception was going to be a little bit different when it came to critics, because the critic score is currently sitting at a 10%. I thought that they were going to defend this and say it's, awesome and it's great, and who cares about the racists attacking it, because that's usually what they do. But it seems like, first of all, a lot of them didn't even want to review it, meaning they probably did not like it, and the few who did just, absolutely destroyed it. I mean, a 10% is not good, but the audience also obviously absolutely hated it, and we can see why. This is a series that is not just a, fictional retelling of Cleopatra's life and takes some of the names of real historical figures and kind of spins them and dramatizes them. No, this is a docu-series, even though, none of what they present in this is really fact. They tried to spin it that way, and it has gotten, rightfully destroyed over it. It says, though, having arrived on Netflix with what Forbes determined was the lowest Rotten Tomatoes audience score ever for a show or movie, garnering at least 5,000 rankings, the 4-part original miniseries Queen Cleopatra predictably tanked in its first 5 days on Netflix, capturing only 20.2 million viewing hours for the week of May 8th to the 14th. This is absolutely hilarious because the lead actress has already gone on social media and bragged about this series. She bragged about how it was number 4 for the US and number 6 on the top 10 list for the UK, and it did not hold because it is already actually off both of those top 10 lists. And we can see why. I mean, 20.2 million viewing hours for its launch week is absolutely abysmal, and it actually got destroyed by shows that are years old. Now, taking a look at the official Netflix chart numbers, it got beat by series that were years old, like Bridgerton Season 1 ranked better than it, Missing Dead or Alive Season 1 ranked better than it, and of course, it was never going to beat something like Queen Cleopatra, but even The Night Agent, which is 2 months old at this point, beat Queen Cleopatra Season 1. I mean, these numbers, as you can see, are absolutely abysmal. It says, though, applying ancient Egyptian history to a faux documentary format with Jada Pinkett Smith exec producing and serving as narrator and African-American actor Adele James cast in the title role, Queen Cleopatra arrived on Netflix having already been subject to a racially charged lawsuit in Egypt, the plaintiff charging Netflix and the producers with misrepresenting its historical subject matter. Yes, there are Egyptians and Greeks who are furious over Netflix's decision to go in this direction. In the case of Queen Cleopatra, however, quality of content rather than controversy seems to have doomed audience performance. It is patchy Game of Thrones cosplay interwoven with academics you've never heard of. It's too soapy for serious history fans and not enough of a soap for viewers who like juicy historical dramas. Yes, the format of this just in general was awful as well. It's not like it was a fully dramatized version of her life where you see everything from her point of view. It's not not like, you know, The Crown or something like the Queen Victoria series that came out a few years ago. It's not like that, but it also isn't a full documentary where they're showing you her, you know, historical items, and they are, you know, showing you on a map her journey, where she went, what she did, her life in general. They didn't go in either of those directions, and just the format altogether was also very clunky, besides the fact that it's completely inaccurate. And like I mentioned, I have been covering Cleopatra a lot on the channel. I also recently covered this, which I think is hilarious. Netflix's Queen Cleopatra appears to have the worst audience score in TV history, and they deserve it because this series is so awful. I mean, Netflix is getting sued over it in Egypt, and I don't think it will get like the whole series taken down from Netflix in general, but there is a chance that Queen Cleopatra could be banned in Egypt, which I bet that they'd be pretty upset over. The article says, though, while I had heard about the controversy surrounding Netflix's docudrama, I hadn't been tracking it much since it was actually released a few days ago. It's number 6 in Netflix's top 10 list, and I don't think I've seen it go all that much higher since then. It never went above a 5, and it only stayed in a 5 spot for a little while. It says, though, however, the show had done something I didn't think was even possible. It is not just the lowest audience score in Netflix history, it essentially has the lowest audience score possible on Rotten Tomatoes, and at the time it was at a 1%. It's gone all the way up to a 2%, but it's clearly not going to go any higher than that. It says, I've previously written about series with low Netflix review scores. The last time I even had to broach this topic was when Netflix's now canceled Resident Evil adaptation scored a 22. Look at all these other awful shows and movies that they have had to rate some of their lowest scores. They've said a 22. Queen Cleopatra is at a 2. They also had Jupiter's Legacy at a 73. Space Force at a 77. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness with a 39%, but no one could have imagined Cleopatra was going to hit a 1%. I thought it was going to be low. I thought it was going to be maybe a 10 to a 15%, because I did think there were going to be people defending it, right? Some individuals on social media have been defending this series tooth and nail, but they didn't even show up to watch it, seeing as they weren't able to raise the scores at all. Obviously, this Queen Cleopatra mini-series wasn't ever meant to go 2 or 3 or 4 seasons, because they are doing an overarching larger show about historical queens, and primarily black ones. They are lucky they didn't invest into this Queen Cleopatra series as a standalone like The Crown or Victoria, because they would have obviously had to cancel it. But yes, now we know the debut streaming numbers, and they are miserable for Netflix, Jada Pinkett Smith, and Adele James. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.